So now we are starting prepacks as per economic development, and it is related to our GS paper 3. Now here the government of India basically promulgated an ordinance allowing the use of prepacks as an insolvency resolution mechanism for MSME with a default of up to 1 crore. Means MSME have a mechanism, insolvency resolution mechanism with a default, which MSME have a default of up to 1 crore. So for that, government has introduced a prepack schemes. So what is a prepack basically? Prepack is a resolution of debt of a distressed company through an agreement. So they are saying that it's a resolution of a debt of a distressed company through an agreement between a secured creditors and investors instead of a public bidding process. Means they don't want to go for a public bidding. So what they want to do here is, in the prepack, they did an agreement between the secured creditors and the investor. So here I'm again reading this line that a prepack is a resolution of a debt of a distressed company through an agreement between a secured creditors and investors. We can say that whoever with secured creditors and investors, we can again negotiate with them to have a certain time limit, and also the loan has to be like we can redesign our loan. So in a similar way they can have a prepacks. So we are not going for a public bidding process, we are not going for any outsider resolution. Internally we are doing such kind of a things. Now in this system, financial creditors will agree to the terms with the potential investors and seek approval of resolution plan from NCLT. So now NCLT comes into the picture. So in this system, financial creditors will agree on to the terms of the potential investors. So for the potential investor, they agree on to the terms, and they are asking for the resolution plan from NCLT. So approval of resolution plan required basically 66% of votes. Earlier it was 75%. Now it has 66% of financial creditors before it's sent to NCLT. Means before sending that approval to the NCLT, we need approval from financial creditors with a minimum voting of 66%. And NCLT has discretion to accept or reject the application for prepack. Means application, it's only on the discretion of NCLT. Even all the COC, Committee of Creditors, financial creditors agree on the point. Here also our point is that it is not the Committee of Creditors, it's the financial creditors who can approve such kind of a resolution. So NCLT has discretion to accept or reject the application for prepacks insolvency bidding process before considering the petition for CIRP. Now what is the difference lies? So what is the difference here? So difference is basically it is time taken for resolution under CIRP is the main issue. It is a time taking. By the end of the December 2020, 86% of the resolution process had crossed threshold limit of 270 days. Means in December, 86% of the insolvency proceedings has crossed threshold limit of this. Means that the time limit of 270 days has been crossed here. So the reason for delay is prolonged litigation by promoters and potential bidders. So what promoters and bidders do, they have a litigation against the company for which the major delay or major reason for the delays has mostly occur. But prepacks provide a maximum of 120 days with only 90 days available to the stakeholders to bring the resolution plan to NCLT. So prepack is a new thing which has been introduced for MSME. Earlier in insolvency process we have two things. First is a resolution which we need to sort it out in 270 days, plus there is a 90 days one time extension from the NCLT. So how many days we can have? Almost 368, 330 in some cases. So and also in fast track also we have a time limit of 45 days of extension for whatever with the certain time limit has been specified. Okay, so here what is happening, that there is a new time limit of 120 days with only 90 days available to stakeholders to bring resolution plan to NCLT. Means only 90 days basically available, and other 30 days is available to NCLT. So under the prepack, the existing management retain control over the company, while in CIRP, resolution professional takes control of the distressed firm. So prepack में what is happening that the existing management retain कर लेता है वो control over the company, ठीक है. बल्कि CIRP में क्या होता है, there is a proper resolution professional who have a control under this. So prepack will for MSME will help corporate debtors to enter into restructuring agreement with lender. They are basically restructuring the debt in this case and kickstart the company a new again and clean balance sheet. So how the creditors are protected here, because we have built a proper IBC code for creditors. So under these provisions, in a prepack introduced by Government of India provides for a Swiss challenge mechanism. So here is a Swiss challenge mechanism and the provision in the prepack introduced by the government. So in this mechanism, any third party would be permitted to submit a resolution plan for the distressed company, and the original applicant would have to either match the improved resolution plan or forego the investments. So this ensures that there are adequate protection measures that are not misused by the errant promoters. So what they want to say here, in this mechanism, any third party would be permitted to submit a resolution plan. Anybody can come to have a resolution plan. For distressed company, okay, for MSME they were talking about, which have a debt of up to 1 crore, and the original applicant would have to either match the improved resolution plan or to forego the investment. Okay. So now we have a different article, and that is related to oil shipping. It is related to economy. So oil shipping, it is related to GS paper 3. Now Saudi Arabia has recently raised price of oil shipments to Asia by 20 to 50% per barrel. So it is basically a huge percentage they are charging to Asian countries. So raising the total cost of crude oil to India over 1.8, they have not mentioned here the trillion or billion dollar, but probably it would be a trillion, that dollar 1.8 over the benchmark price. Okay, so they are talking about that crude oil has increased 1.8 $8 जो benchmark price था उसका. Then the Saudi hasn't raised the shipping rates. Saudi has not raised the shipping rates. So here for Western European customer, but rather reduced the shipping prices for the US customer. Now reason for the price rise. What are the reasons for the price rise they are talking about? Here the reason is the hike may be a signal to deter India's plan to diversify supplies away from Saudi Arabia. Hike may be a signal to deter India's plan to diversify. Basically they want to say here that India has to diversify its plans from Saudi Arabia to another country. So India's state-owned oil marketing companies decided to cut imports from Saudi Arabia due to later maintaining production cuts to increase the oil prices. Rise in the shipping costs along with terms of shipping and flexibility of contracts could also increase the price of the crude oil. So rise in the shipping cost along with the terms of shipping and the flexibility of contracts could also be increase the price of the crude oil. Now what are the reasons of production cut? What are the reason to have a production cut? As the price of the crude oil fell due to poor global demand. So crude oil price is fell now here. Why? Because of the poor global demand. Now OPEC plus, a group of 23 major oil producing countries, cut down the crude oil production level during the peak COVID-19 pandemic. So what they want to say are that during the COVID-19 they have cut their production level. So now they are not into that level, but they continue to maintain lower production level despite the demand recovering the pre-pandemic level. Means what they are doing here, that they are continuing with the lower level production, which is a lower level production. They are even having the demand of the after the pre-pandemic level. Now the rise in the crude oil prices contribute to the rise of fuel prices in India, as India imports 80% of its crude oil requirement. So basically India depends on the import of the crude oil. So due to this, India is facing a challenge. Now India called for withdrawal of production cut as it hampers the economic recovery after the pandemic of developing countries. Withdrawal of production cut. Now impact of rising crude oil prices. What are the impact? Basically similar way में inflation will increase, hike, everything is related to oil. So a consistent rise in the crude oil price led to a price of petrol and diesel reaching record high levels, which has already been touched. Now the price of the petrol and diesel increased despite the oil marketing companies absorbing some of the impact of the higher crude oil prices. Means their oil marketing company are absorbing some of the impact, means they are not get benefited, but they are having but here oil prices even higher, even when they are not get benefited from it. Oil marketing companies they are talking about. So in this had a direct impact on the increase in the food inflation in India.